Hi, and welcome to this quick overview of Lean. Lean is fundamentally a way of thinking about and improving how we do work. Let's look at an example of Lean in action. In the 1950s, pit stops took over a minute to complete. Over the last 70 years, there's been a huge progress in reducing the time it takes to make a pit stop. Obviously, in competitive races, every second or even millisecond counts, and a 20 times reduction in the time to change tires or refuel makes a huge difference to the team's chance of winning the race. But how did racing teams achieve such a dramatic reduction in the time take to make a pit stop? They did it by applying lean thinking. Lean thinking basically says our goal is to only ever do things that add value, where that value is measured by the customer's willingness to pay for it. To do this, we relentlessly search for and remove waste from the process. In the case of pit stops, having fixings on the wheel that take a long time to undo, or not having tires where you need them so that it's easy to make the change are examples of waste. There are 7 different types of waste we can look for in a process, from transporting things unnecessarily to waiting for something to finish before you can start having to do the next thing, or having to rework something because you didn't get it right first time. So how do you go about applying lean? Before we can improve anything, we first need to define how we do it today. We call these definitions of how we work standards. As Teiichi Ono, the architect of the famous Toyota production system, once said, without standards, there can be no improvement. So we start by looking at how we produce the things that we move through our operation, the process that they follow, something in Lean we call the value stream, before then breaking this down into different stages, often called work areas or cells, and then by creating standards that define how the process in each work area or cell works. A proven way of developing standards is to start by organizing each work area. To organize our work area, we apply a lean concept called 5S. It gets its name from the names of the 5 steps we follow to organize our work area. Our goal with this approach is to ensure that we remove everything that we do not need to add value, and then ensure that there is a place for everything we need and that everything is in that place. Applying 5S helps us remove waste and standardize the process at the same time. It also brings the discipline that helps us to maintain a clean, safe, organized, and ultimately standardized workplace. One critical concept in Lean is it's the whole team that apply this process, not just the managers. Once we've organized the workplace, the next step is look for opportunities to improve the process. We do this with something we call daily management. Daily management is about planning what we plan to do each day, following our standards, and then understanding why something didn't go as we expected, and where necessary, systematically solving problems and making improvements every day. Daily management gives accountability to the people actually doing the work to identify and solve the problems they face doing that work. A key idea in daily management is looking for and fixing root causes rather than just doing things that alleviate symptoms. To find root causes, we apply a concept called 5 whys thinking, which helps us to dig into the problems and get beyond the symptoms we observe to the actual underlying root causes that we need to fix. To understand the root cause, it is critical we go to the place where the working is happening and observe what is happening in reality. In Lean, we call this place the Gemba, after the Japanese word meaning place where work happens. Let's look at an example of 5 whys root cause thinking. In this example, we could choose every time we found we had a cold cup of coffee to keep replacing the kettle, but this would be an expensive fix and very disruptive. Better to understand why the kettle is not functioning. Ultimately, in this case, the problem is a gap in the standard which allowed the wrong fuse to be fitted. Fixing the root cause saves time and money and reduces the possibility this problem will happen again. Once we've standardized the process, not only can we continually improve it, but we can also see if it's capable of producing outputs at the rate the customer expects them. In Lean, we call this rate the customer expects the Takt rate, after the German word meaning rhythm of music. Think of it like a heartbeat that our process should follow if it is to be capable of meeting the customer demand. The next step after standardizing the process is to stabilize it. Stabilizing is about ensuring that all of the steps in our process can successfully meet the customer demand or tack time. In this one step, for example, if we had one step as on this page that takes longer than the rest, it will then become a bottleneck, a point at which inventory will build up, overproduction, basically, and the next step will have to wait, all of which are just waste. To address this, we need to balance the operation, either by moving people or equipment so that each step can be executed in the time needed to meet the customer rate. Once we have both standardized and stabilized the operation, the next step is to create flow by joining together the operations and switching what triggers the production from a push to a pull. When we challenge ourselves to think in a lean way, we start to think about things from the perspective of flow, with the goal to be how we can remove barriers, i.e. waste, that is stopping that flow. One major barrier, built on the assumption is it's better to do more of the same output because it takes longer to switch from one output to another, is to produce things in batches. Our goal in Lean is to produce things in smaller and smaller batches and remove the constraints that prevent us from doing that. Ultimately, we want to get to a scenario called single piece flow, where we only produce one when the customer demands it. Compare the speed of this approach and the amount of work in progress to the scenario we're still producing in batches. Ultimately, you can summarize Lean as a four-stage journey that never ends, where we're all times looking to remove the barriers to our ultimate vision of instantaneous production of the exact output the customer wants without any waste at all. So finally, what is the culture we want to build around Lean, and what can you expect from your leaders? In the words of Fuji Cho, an inspirational former chairman of Toyota, Lean works when leaders change the way they lead, prioritizing going to the Gemba and seeing what's really happening, using data to stabilize the operation and get to the real root causes, and ultimately recognizing you, the people who execute the work, it's you that needs the support from leaders to remove the barriers to problem solving. I hope you found this overview of Lean helpful.